Hello, beautiful persons. I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together we are Minting Coins, your trusted source for Bitcoin and blockchain news, where we are not just making money, but we are gaining digital control and financial freedom. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin breaking 10,000, Bitcoin breaking 11,000, and it's not going to be too long before we're talking about Bitcoin breaking beyond. We're also going to be talking about how some Democratic senators are saying that Facebook is actually not too big to run Libra, and it may actually be okay with some rules in place. And also, we're going to be talking about how I think ENS may be one of the largest opportunities in Ethereum, but that's if you want to take the chance and be outside of Bitcoin right now. There's that and a whole lot more. Let's discuss. Hey everybody, so this is Gary Palmer Jr. I am super excited to be in the new studio. I posted a photo on Instagram and Twitter. You can go check that out. And we are here set up with our green candles and our nodes running, studio set up, ready to broadcast and share the news and just continue helping the world and helping the community and just putting ourselves out there, providing value through education, through community, and through creating connections for information for you and for people just to learn more, to do more, so they can gain more control of their digital privacy, more control of their digital identity, their digital lives, and then how that can extend into your personal freedom, your economic freedom, your financial freedom, because all of these things are connected in the world that we're living in. And the world that we're living in is waking up to, $10,000 Bitcoin. It hit $11,000. Let's jump into the markets and take a peek around. Starting over here at livecoinwatch.com, we have Bitcoin currently priced at $10,775. We have a 24-hour trading volume, 100,000 million billion, $36.7 billion. Bitcoin dominance increasing to 59%. We're seeing major sell-offs in alts, especially when we compare the price of alts to the price of Bitcoin. If you want a quick spot check this, we talked about this in the past before, but if Bitcoin is up 10% and Ethereum is up 7.6%, it still looks like Ethereum has gained value. Ethereum has increased to go beyond that $300 mark. A lot of people are very excited about the price charts of Ethereum, where Ethereum is headed. Keep in mind that even though Bitcoin may be the biggest, best coin out there in the network effect, we're still expecting to see sub-networks. We're still expecting to see the second largest cryptocurrency that ends up winning the open source decentralized game. We're still expecting to see the second largest to be at least half the size of the first largest based on populations and distributions of other large networks and large organizations out there. We don't think there's going to be just one network, but with that being said, the price of Ethereum has increased, the price of Bitcoin has increased, but what we're trying to say here is that the price of Bitcoin has increased a few percentage more, and so what that means is that compared to Bitcoin, Ethereum has actually lost money. Keep that in mind as we're talking about all of these other opportunities out there, as we're talking about any opportunity out there. Not only do you want to compare what's happening in the cryptocurrency space against the value in dollars, but you also want to look at what's happening in the cryptocurrency space, especially in terms of the value of Bitcoin. Because if what we're looking at is real, if what we're expecting is, turns out to be the case, that for the past year and a half, we actually have not been in a bubble. For the past year and a half, we've just been in a, retracement of the parabolic Bitcoin price going from $1,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000, retracing that 85%, with what may be a bear market or a bull market, excuse me, and it could still pull back from here. We don't know if it's going to go up, down, or stay the same, but if this is the beginning of the bull market, then there's going to be a lot to take in, a lot to understand, as the potential of Bitcoin going up is infinity. There's no limit on how high Bitcoin can go because of the extreme scarcity of the total number of Bitcoin. Never going to be more than 21 million Bitcoins. Currently, we have a circulating supply of 17.7 million Bitcoin. We know, hundreds of thousands, millions and millions of Bitcoin are inaccessible. The keys are lost to those Bitcoins, so we can see it reflected in the total circulating volume right here, the total circulating supply. But not all of those Bitcoins are accessible. Not all of those Bitcoins are available on the exchanges. And so once everyone starts to have that mentality of wanting their own Bitcoin, we're going to see the price of Bitcoin increase to a parabolic scale, as dictated by the laws of supply and demand and physics and gravity and all that good stuff. Jumping in here, going deeper into Bitcoin, just to show you guys, we have a 24-hour high, $11,104. The 24-hour low, $9,700. This 24-hour range is a 12%. We're still just, 46, 47% away from the all-time high. The last time Bitcoin hit $10,000, it only took a couple weeks for Bitcoin to go from $10,000 to $20,000. It went from 10 to 15 to 20 like that. It was shocking to everybody, how quickly Bitcoin was going up. And it was so extreme that everyone was purchasing, that people were mortgaging their house for $60,000, buying 3 Bitcoin, and then watching that value of that $60,000 mortgage, retrace back down to $10,000. It was pretty amazing. But just as quickly as we dropped all the way down to 85% to $3,000, $3,500 per Bitcoin. Maybe that was a long time for you. Maybe that was a short time. But in retrospect, a few years from now, we're expecting that to be just a blip on the radar, just as all of the blips have been blips on the radar for Bitcoin up to this point. And how do we know that? How do we quantify that? We can look at the total amount of money in the world. We can look at the total amount of debts in the world. We can look at the total amount of gold in the world. And then just imagine 1% to 5% of just gold entering into the Bitcoin market, just 1% to 5% of equities or bonds or some sort of financial instruments that go into Bitcoin. Just imagine 1 to 5% of real estate, commercial, residential real estate being tokenized or represented through the Bitcoin blockchain, so forth and so on, especially all the debt, $2-3 quadrillion in debt out there that could be sold and redirected into purchasing Bitcoin is extremely scarce, extremely limited, extremely secure digital asset that I would argue is more real, more tangible than the US dollar pieces of paper found in your pocket. So to show you this chart, which we know and love, if you have between 1 and 10 Bitcoin, then you're part of this new 95%, right? Because the majority of Bitcoin is being held by people who have at least 1 Bitcoin. And the number of people that have between 0.1 and 1 Bitcoin is just very few. We're talking 3.5% of the total supply of coins is held by folks that have that much. So how many addresses is this? This is across 2 million addresses. So, there's cities out there that have 2 million people. There's 300 million people in America. There's, hundreds of million people, billions of people all across the world. And so this is just to show you where you can fall in, where you can jump in the scale, representative of the provable addresses out there on the Bitcoin blockchain in terms of how much Bitcoin it is that they have. Now, if you're in one of these brackets, it's just about increasing the bracket, even if you have it spread across multiple addresses and stacking those Satoshis, because again, the philosophy here is that this is a scarce asset And as inflation occurs with fiat currencies all around the world, all other things are going to go up in price. Eggs are going to go up, coffee is going to go up, energy is going to go up, housing is, very likely going to go up if they don't dramatically increase the supply of homes, and just like if they don't dramatically increase the supply of eggs, but there's upward limitations even on those. With Bitcoin, there's a hard cap, and this is going to be used as a secure store of value. This is going to be used as a means of payment, where people can, trust the exchange, receive the money practically instantly, compared to modern standards, at practically free compared to modern standards, and they'll be able to do this with, virtually no oversight or restrictions, because Bitcoin is open, borderless, censorship resistant, neutral, and these are the reasons why, we know and we love it. So this is just really interesting, how we look at the headlines, how we read the headlines when news comes out there in the mainstream. Sometimes, they're giving you one side of the view, and when they're giving you that one side of the view, you need to, think what's the information that they're not sharing. Sometimes when you're getting information out there in the news, you have to think, okay, this is the information that you're reading out there right now. What is it being distracting you from? Other news and information that we're not paying attention to. And so it's just a matter of looking at the headlines, actually digging into the stories, and then, using what it is that we know to sort of look at these in a little different way. And so what this article is about from ccn.com is Facebook too powerful to run Libra without rules, says the Democratic senator. And so what's going on here from Senator Sherrod Brown is that he's saying that Facebook is already too big and too powerful, and it has used the power to exploit users' data without protecting their privacy. We cannot allow Facebook to run a risky new cryptocurrency out of a Swiss bank account without oversight. And so essentially what we're reading here is that the United States is going to allow Facebook, is going to allow these financial giants, is going to allow capitalism and industry to get ahead of the situation, because these corporations, these centralized corporations who are subject to U.S. law, U.S. jurisdiction, U.S. reach, which really extends around the world. And so they'll simply, go with the rules, they'll follow the rules, they'll allow themselves to give up or share the information that is going to allow them to have the control, because with the control, they're going to be able to make a profit, they're going to be able to make money, and with those profits and with that money, they're likely going to take that, in my opinion, and then reinvest, their proceeds into Bitcoin, which is going to be the longer term store of value. Right now, this is just a matter of, how do you make money, how do you keep control, how do you keep the power, in order to keep that money, coming in order to keep that power. It's like this vicious habit, this vicious cycle that we see far too often in politics, in finance, in extreme versions of capitalism, which really creates too much separation between people, not enough education, not enough community, not enough connections, to really create a healthy ecosystem. So hopefully, with what we're getting to with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, is that we're going to get more to that ecosystem, more of a system where people can trust relationships and trust rules, because people are using platforms and systems that are decentralized, and are using those platforms which they can all trust the rules, because there's not going to be a third party to change the games, to move the goalpost, to to rewrite what you thought was going to be truth, and just essentially being, pushed over, because you're going to have just as equal access to, these systems, these open, neutral systems, as anyone else around the world using them. We're not going to need to trust each other. We're not going to need to trust centralized sources, because we're going to trust in the code. We're going to trust in the protocols, because the protocols are going to provide this validation between all of the people, all of the internet connected things, all of the systems out there, between them and each other, and it's going to be really, really interesting. It can go south, but we have these tools in place right now, where right now people have control, right now people have opportunity, and what's going to matter most, no matter what happens, is you learning about this now, you participating now, and you getting ahead of the game in terms of understanding the people involved, understanding the systems, understanding the processes, that allows all of these different things to work together. How they can help you, how they can hurt you, how they can be used for your community, how they can be used against your community. And, with that, you can just understand the benefits, understand the risks, and be better informed to make your decisions moving forward. And then hopefully you take that information and you share that information with other people in your community, because then you'll have a stronger community and a stronger network, and that's going to reinforce the strength that you have for yourself. So, just a little bit deeper into this article, the senator goes on to say that there are rules. And the senator is calling to preemptively introduce rules to regulate the Libra project. We're wondering if these rules are also going to extend into the open source projects like Bitcoin, the open source projects like Ethereum, of which, you can argue now it has become. And what some of the senators, are worried about right now is that they're saying that we know Trump regulators are never as aggressively aimed at big companies, whether they're Wall Street banks or Silicon Valley, as they should be. So we want to shine the light on this first of all, and then figure out what Facebook's trying to do, and then begin to move with the regulators to protect the financial system and the economy. They're worried about the financial system, they're worried about the economy, they're worried about the people. Most of all, they're worried about their own ability to make money. Most of all, they're worried about their own ability to establish or just not, totally lose in the mainstream media's eyes their sense of authority, their sense of power, their sense of control. Because as they go on to say here from different folks around the world, we have France's finance minister, Bruno Le Maire, who warned on Europe One Radio that Libra's status could threaten existing currencies. He goes on to say that it is out of the question that Libra become a sovereign currency. It can and must not happen. And so they're calling on central bank governors of the G7 to, talk about Libra, to discuss, what is happening. And, really what they're trying to get at is that they're trying to get at knowing more about the guarantees taken from Facebook that's going to allow France and United States and other, members of the G7 and G20 to maintain their power, to maintain their control without, this corporate entity coming with, their massive users, their massive reach in communication and, power, what they could do. I mean, just imagine what would happen if Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp went down. A huge part of the world would have to stop and think, how do they communicate with each other? How would they connect with each other? There's huge portions of the world where if Facebook went down, they would not be able to contact their family down the street, let alone their family in another state. And so there's definitely huge concerns involved with the current level of power that the technology has. The internet was originally open source as well, but then it became very centralized with some of these gatekeepers and some of these websites, the way capitalism is structured, the way the control is structured. Even if you're, an anarcho-capitalist, it's a messed up system that we currently have where there's two different levels of stock where, both stocks may be worth the same, but someone else is allowed to own a piece of company, and not only own a piece of company, but it's allowed to make decisions and rules and have a voting say, where the other, piece of stock, all it does is, allow you to sell it to somebody else for whatever they're willing to pay you for it. And so with that level of power and control that these centralized organizations have, if they were able to gain the power and control over the money supply, the governments know that that is so extreme that they cannot allow it to happen. The governments know that the one reason that they're able to have total power and control over the people, over other countries, over themselves, is because they work in cahoots with the central banks, the governments and the treasuries, and the people who run the governments work with the central banks to authorize printing of money. They continuously will forever print more money, and as long as they can print more money, whoever prints the money controls the world. And so if Facebook is allowed to have, you know, its own sovereign currency that is used and recognized and is a stronger, better currency. Imagine if there was anything, if you liked beer, right? Just imagine if you liked beer or if you liked wine. And if you had your existing beer and you had, you know, a new beer introduced, and just the new beer was better, right? If the new beer was better, you'd want to drink the new beer. And if the old beer wasn't as good, you would just not want that beer. And if just more people preferred the new better beer and less people wanted the old beer, then that old beer company is going to go out of business. Well, if the old beer company is the country which manages the military and the governments and the police service and all of that, then that beer company is going to have a huge problem with the new company, even though that new beer company may have better beer. So I hope you like that analogy. That was pretty on the fly. And but that's the situation. I mean, this is really you know, major stuff, right? Because, you know, money is not just a unit of account. It's not just, you know, a way of recording transactions and keeping, you know, track of things on a ledger. It's also a system of control. At least that's, you know, what it's become over time. So with that being said, you know, I just want to thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you guys for showing up. We have updated Bitcoin price in the moment, $10,910. We are rocket shipping up. This is just crazy and super exciting at the same time. I'm, you know, so happy that you spend this time with me, that you learn this information with me, and I really hope that you take this information and you share it with other people out there. If you appreciate these videos, I'm asking you, please subscribe. Please hit that bell icon notification. Comment in the video. Let me know if you have any questions. You know, feel free to connect with me. We are on Minting Coins Twitter, twitter.com/mintingcoins. I'm Gary Palmer Jr. on Twitter. Locally, if you're in the New York State, Rochester area, we are at bitcoinnys.com, mintingcoins.com. You know, feel free to find us on Patreon. We'd love to have a subscriber or two. And we also have a tip and me address if you want to, you know, tip with some lightning there. But with that being said, you know, let me know what you think about all of this. Let me know, what do you think about Bitcoin hitting $11,000? Do you think that this is the start of the bull market, or do you think that, you know, maybe we're just gonna, you know, jump up a couple $1,000s and stick around here for 6 months before anything real happens? You know, seeing all the alts sort of get sold off, we knew that was going to happen. It's going to be really interesting to see which ones pop up and increase their value against Bitcoin, because, you know, we definitely think that there's a lot of new people coming into the market, and they're not all going to know just that they should all buy Bitcoin. They're all going to want to diversify, and that may be some huge opportunity, but it's also major risk. You should definitely have, you know, your Satoshis, stacking your Satoshis, and take that from there. Oh man, the one thing I forgot to talk about was the ENS names. Well, we'll talk about that more in another video, but, you know, what's happening in Ethereum and what's happening with these ENS names, we're super excited. Generally speaking, just so you know where our head is at, we think that while Ethereum is probably going to, you know, do really, really well, maybe not as well as Bitcoin, we think it's going to do, you know, extraordinarily well, unbelievably well. We also think, you know, equally more so, that the non-fungible tokens, that these NFTs, these ERC 721 tokens are simply going to be worth a lot. They're going to be highly valued, highly sought after. We think there's going to be major collectors all around the world who are going to get into the game way late, way after the fact, and they're going to be really interested in these things. They're going to be interested in CryptoKitties. They're going to be interested in Decentraland. They're going to be interested in, you know, ENS domain names for Ethereum, decentralized domain names for Ethereum, to, you know, have, you know, human readable addresses instead of these very long, you know, Ethereum addresses. Huge opportunities available, so much to do, so much to learn, so much to say. If you want to have a conversation, hit us up on Discord, and you know, I'm sure we'll have some time. But until then, Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being part of this video. And until next time, I'm glad that together we are minting coins.